Jasmine's tears streamed down as billionaire Richard Thompson whispered those 9 words. The crowd erupted in applause, cameras flashing everywhere. Just yesterday, she'd been digging through trash for recycling. Now, holding the $5 million check. She wondered if saving his life was her biggest mistake. Before we dive into this extraordinary story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe to join our community of storytellers. How would you react if a billionaire whispered life-changing words to you after you saved their life? Let's find out what happened to young Jasmine in this incredible journey of courage, injustice, and unexpected transformation. The rusted swing set creaked under Jasmine Williams's weight as she gently rocked back and forth, gazing at the Chicago skyline that seemed both impossibly close and worlds away. At 12 years old, her small frame carried responsibilities far beyond her years, her dark eyes holding wisdom no child should possess so early. Westside Heights had once been a vibrant community. Now, broken windows and boarded storefronts told the story of systematic neglect. The predominantly black neighborhood existed in the shadow of downtown's gleaming towers, a stark reminder of the city's inequalities. "Jasmine, baby, don't stay out too late," called Gloria, her grandmother, from their apartment window. At 67, Gloria's body was failing her, but her spirit remained unbroken. Since Jasmine's mother had been incarcerated for a minor drug offense with a sentence no white person would have received for the same crime, Gloria had been raising Jasmine alone. "Just 5 more minutes, Grandma," Jasmine replied, reluctantly abandoning her daydreams. Their apartment was small but meticulously clean. Gloria had decorated it with family photos and colorful African prints, creating warmth despite the peeling paint and unreliable heating. The medicine bottles lined up on the kitchen counter were a constant reminder of their precarious situation. "Did you finish your homework?" Gloria asked, stirring a pot of beans that would need to last them several days. "Yes, ma'am. Got an A on my history test, too." Jasmine pulled the paper from her backpack, the red mark a bright spot of achievement. Gloria's face brightened with pride. "That's my girl. Education is something they can never take away from you." Every morning before school, Jasmine woke at 5 to collect recyclables from neighborhood bins. The extra $20 or $30 a week helped pay for Gloria's heart medication when her Medicare benefits fell short. The routine had become second nature, checking dumpsters behind businesses, carefully sorting glass from plastic, aluminum from paper. Her daily route took her past Thompson Tower, the tallest building in Chicago's financial district. Richard Thompson's name gleamed in gold letters above the entrance, a monument to wealth and power. Sometimes Jasmine imagined working there, riding the elevator to a corner office with views of Lake Michigan. But those dreams felt foolish when security guards eyed her suspiciously if she lingered too long. At Douglas Elementary, Jasmine excelled, despite outdated textbooks and overcrowded classrooms. Her teacher, Mrs. Washington, recognized her potential and slipped her extra books when she could. "This child could be anything," she once told a colleague, "if only the world would let her." One afternoon, Jasmine witnessed a group of wealthy, white visitors from downtown treating Mr. Johnson, the local convenience store owner, with blatant disrespect. "Your prices are highway robbery," a woman in designer clothes complained loudly. "These people probably don't know better," her companion replied, not bothering to lower his voice. Mr. Johnson, a Vietnam veteran who had run the store for 30 years, maintained his dignity in silence. Later, he gave Jasmine a free juice box and whispered, "Remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, but by how you respond." The incident stayed with her, another piece in the growing puzzle of injustice she was beginning to recognize. Jasmine's best friend Keisha lived in the same apartment building. They shared dreams, secrets, and the harsh realities of growing up black in America. 2 weeks earlier, Keisha's 17-year-old brother Darnell had been arrested for looking suspicious near the financial district. "He was just waiting for his interview at the mailroom," Keisha explained, wiping away angry tears. "Now he's got a record, and the job is gone." These experiences accumulated like stones in Jasmine's pocket, small individually, but collectively. weighty enough to bend her young shoulders. Still, Gloria taught her to stand tall. In the evenings, she shared stories of the civil rights movement, of resistance and dignity in the face of oppression. "Your grandfather marched with Dr. King," she would say. "That same courage runs in your blood." Despite limited resources, Gloria fostered Jasmine's intellectual curiosity. They made weekly trips to the public library, returning with stacks of books. When the neighborhood community center offered a free first aid course, Gloria insisted, "Jasmine, attend. Knowledge is power," she repeated like a mantra. "And one day, baby girl, you'll need all the power you can get." In the forgotten corners of Westside Heights, Jasmine learned life's hardest lessons early. But among the struggles bloomed resilience, a fierce determination to create a future different from the limited options society presented. Each morning as she passed Thompson Tower on her recycling route, the contrast between her world and the world of privilege grew more apparent. What she couldn't possibly know was how soon these worlds would collide. Morning fog clung to Chicago streets as Jasmine made her way downtown, pulling her small cart of recyclables. It was a Tuesday in October, unusually warm, the kind of day that made the city feel almost generous. She'd found a cache of discarded aluminum cans behind a restaurant, enough to possibly cover Gloria's copay for her new prescription. The financial district was awakening. Men and women in tailored suits streamed from train stations, carrying coffee cups and briefcases, their conversations about markets and mergers creating a buzz of prosperity. Jasmine kept to the edges of the sidewalk, knowing from experience that she was invisible to them. Until she wasn't. Until she became something to avoid, to look at with suspicion. "What's she doing here?" Jasmine overheard a woman whisper to her colleague, nodding in her direction. Two security guards from Riverside Plaza had begun following her at a distance, their eyes tracking her movements. One spoke into his radio, and Jasmine quickened her pace. She'd learned that no matter how legitimate her presence, her black skin in this white space made her a target for suspicion. She was considering abandoning her morning route when a commotion erupted across the street. A crowd gathered outside Thompson Tower, voices raised in alarm. The security guards following Jasmine immediately diverted their attention toward the disturbance. Curiosity pulled Jasmine closer. Through gaps between concerned onlookers, she glimpsed a man on the ground. Not just any man, even in distress. Richard Thompson was recognizable from his frequent appearances on billboards and news segments. The 65-year-old billionaire developer was clutching his chest, his normally commanding presence diminished by pain. "Someone call an ambulance," a woman shouted, but few moved to action. Thompson's security detail was distracted by photographers who had begun capturing the scene, more concerned with controlling the billionaire's image than his immediate medical needs. Jasmine hesitated only briefly. The first aid course at the community center had emphasized that cardiac emergencies required immediate response. "Every minute without intervention reduces survival chances by 10%, the instructor had explained. She pushed forward, her small body slipping between gawking adults. "Hey, kid, get back," someone called as she approached Thompson's prone figure. Ignoring them, Jasmine knelt beside the billionaire. His face was ashen, lips taking on a bluish tint. "Mr. Thompson," she said clearly, "I know first aid. I'm going to help you until the ambulance comes." His eyes, clouded with pain, focused on her momentarily. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. Perhaps at being addressed by a young, black girl in worn clothes, perhaps at receiving any help at all. "Has anyone called 911? Jasmine asked the crowd firmly, channeling the authority she'd seen Gloria use when necessary. "They're on their way," someone replied uncertainly. "Are you sure?" Jasmine pressed. When no definitive answer came, she pointed to a man in a business suit. "Please confirm the ambulance is coming. Tell them possible heart attack, male, 60s. The man, startled at being directly addressed by a child, nonetheless pulled out his phone. Jasmine turned back to Thompson. "I need to check if you're breathing properly." She remembered the steps. Check responsiveness, airway, breathing. Thompson was conscious but struggling. She loosened his tie and positioned him properly. "What's that kid doing?" "Someone stop her." "Is she trying to rob him?" The whispers swirled around her, but Jasmine remained focused. When Thompson's breathing became more labored, she recognized the signs of cardiac arrest beginning. Without hesitation, she began chest compressions, counting aloud as she'd been taught. 1, 2, 3, 4. Her small hands pressed with surprising strength. A woman in designer clothes stepped forward. "Get away from him. You don't know what you're doing." "I'm certified in CPR," Jasmine replied without pausing the compressions. "Please stand back and give him air." Something in her confident tone made the woman retreat. Jasmine continued the compressions, switching to rescue breaths when needed. Time stretched and compressed around her, the crowd's murmurs fading as she concentrated on maintaining the rhythm that might keep this man alive. "The ambulance is stuck in traffic," someone reported. Sweat beaded on Jasmine's forehead. Her arms ached, but she didn't stop. "Someone take over if you know CPR," she called, but no one stepped forward. After what seemed an eternity, sirens wailed in the distance. Thompson had begun to respond, his color improving slightly. Jasmine spoke to him continuously, her voice calm despite her racing heart. "Help is coming, Mr. Thompson. Stay with us. You're going to be okay." When paramedics finally arrived, they moved to push Jasmine aside. "Kid, move back now," one ordered, not even glancing at her. "She's been performing CPR," offered a bystander, "for about 10 minutes. The paramedic looked skeptical, but turned his attention to Thompson, who had regained partial consciousness. To everyone's surprise, the billionaire weakly raised his hand, pointing toward Jasmine. "She helped," he managed to say before an oxygen mask was placed over his face. The lead paramedic gave Jasmine a reassessing look. "You did CPR, kid? Properly?" "Yes, sir. I took a course at Westside Community Center." He nodded, professional respect briefly overcoming his assumptions. "Good job. You probably saved his life." As Thompson was loaded into the ambulance, reactions from the crowd varied wildly. Some spectators approached Jasmine with congratulations, suddenly seeing the child they'd been ready to accuse of theft moments before. Others maintained their distance, muttering about her presence in the financial district. "What's a kid from Westside doing downtown anyway?" one man asked loudly. "Shouldn't she be in school?" A woman nearby responded. "She's probably one of those scholarship cases. Thompson Foundation has a program, right?" Neither bothered to address Jasmine directly, discussing her as if she were an exhibit rather than a person who had just saved a life. A reporter who had arrived at the scene approached, camera operator in tow. "Young lady, can we get your name? How do you know Mr. Thompson?" Jasmine backed away, suddenly aware of her cart of recyclables, her worn clothes, and the attention, now focused on her. This wasn't her world, and instinct told her that visibility could bring danger as easily as reward. "I don't know him," she said quietly. "I just did what anyone would do." Before more questions could follow, Jasmine slipped between buildings and disappeared into a side street, leaving her cart of recyclables behind. What she didn't notice was the cell phone that had recorded the entire incident, a video that would soon change her life in ways she couldn't imagine. As she ran home to tell Gloria what had happened, Jasmine had no idea that the boundaries between her world and Richard Thompson's had just been irreversibly crossed. The first news van appeared outside Douglas Elementary the next morning. By lunchtime, there were 5, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky like metal flowers. Jasmine watched from her classroom window as reporters positioned themselves. For the best angles, their cameras pointed expectantly at the school's entrance. "Jasmine Williams, please report to the principal's office," crackled the announcement over the ancient intercom system. Her classmates stared as she gathered her books. Whispers followed her down the hallway. "Is it true you saved some rich white dude? My mom saw you on the morning news. Are you gonna be famous now?" Principal Davis was waiting with an uncomfortable smile and 2 unfamiliar adults in expensive suits. "Jasmine, these people are from the Media Relations Department at Thompson Enterprises. They'd like to speak with you." The woman stepped forward, hand extended. "Rebecca Winters, Thompson PR. That was quite a thing you did yesterday, young lady." Jasmine didn't take the offered hand. "Does my grandmother know you're here?" The adults exchanged glances. "We tried contacting your home," Principal Davis explained, "but couldn't reach anyone." "My grandmother works cleaning houses on Tuesdays," Jasmine said. "I can't talk to you without her permission." Rebecca's smile tightened. "Sweetheart, this is a wonderful opportunity. Mr. Thompson would like to thank you personally. We could send a car for you after school." "I need to check with my grandmother first," Jasmine repeated firmly. The man in the suit stepped forward. "Perhaps we could visit your home this evening? Mr. Thompson is very eager to express his gratitude." Something in his tone made Jasmine uneasy. "I'll tell my grandmother to call you," she said, taking the business card Principal Davis extended. Outside the office, cameras flashed as she tried to return to class. Reporters called out questions. "Jasmine, how does it feel to be a hero? Did you know who Richard Thompson was when you saved him? What were you doing in the financial district instead of school?" That last question carried an accusation that made her spine stiffen. The implication was clear. She didn't belong there. By the time Jasmine reached home, the video had gone viral. Shot by a bystander's phone, it showed her performing CPR on Thompson, her small body working with determined precision while adults stood watching. But the comments beneath the video told a different story than the heroic one some news outlets promoted. What was she doing in that neighborhood anyway? Probably looking for handouts and got lucky. Thompson better check his wallet. Gloria was waiting at their apartment, her face drawn with worry. "Child, why didn't you tell me what happened?" "I was going to, Grandma. It just happened so fast." The small television in their living room was tuned to a local news channel where a reporter stood outside their building. "The miracle child who saved billionaire Richard Thompson lives in this subsidized housing complex in Westside Heights, one of Chicago's most troubled neighborhoods." Gloria muted the TV. "They're making it sound like you're some charity case, not a child who did something brave and right." The phone rang continuously, reporters seeking interviews, neighbors with warnings or congratulations, and eventually, Thompson's office requesting a meeting. Gloria fielded the calls with firm politeness, protective instincts on high alert. "We're not talking to anyone until we figure this out," she told Jasmine. "This kind of attention can be dangerous for people like us." Gloria's concerns proved prescient when a letter arrived the next day from the Department of Children and Family Services. Someone had called in an anonymous concern about Jasmine's welfare, questioning why she was collecting recyclables instead of attending school, despite her perfect attendance record. "They're looking for reasons to take you," Gloria whispered, hands shaking as she read the letter. "Just because I'm old and we're poor." At school, the attention created unexpected fractures. Some teachers treated Jasmine with new respect, while others seemed resentful of the disruption. White parents complained about media presence compromising student safety, though they'd said nothing about the actual safety issues that plagued the underfunded school before cameras arrived. Jasmine overheard Mrs. Whitman, the PTA president, telling another parent, "It's a nice story, but any decent person would have done the same thing. All this fuss seems excessive." The other parent nodded. "And now they're talking about some big reward? Teaching these kids they deserve prizes just for basic human decency isn't right." That afternoon, a black SUV with tinted windows idled outside the school. A man in a dark suit approached Jasmine as she exited. "Miss Williams? Mr. Thompson would like to see you. My grandmother said not to go anywhere with strangers," Jasmine replied, backing away. The man looked annoyed. "This is a great opportunity for someone like you. Don't you want to meet Mr. Thompson?" "Someone like me?" Jasmine repeated, the implication clear. Before the man could respond, Mrs. Washington, Jasmine's teacher, intervened. "Excuse me, sir. This student is in my care until her guardian arrives. Please step away." The man retreated, but remained watching from his vehicle. That evening, their landlord knocked on their door. Mr. Greenberg had always been cordial if distant, accepting their rent without complaint for years. Now he stood uncomfortably in their living room. "Mrs. Williams, I've received an offer on this building. The new owners will be renovating all units." Gloria straightened her back. We have a lease, Mr. Greenberg. Yes, well, there are provisions. For termination with proper notice. He couldn't meet her eyes. I'll need you out by the end of next month. After he left, Gloria sank into a chair. It's starting already. They see us now, and they want us gone. But why, Grandma? I just helped someone. Because, baby, visibility is dangerous when you're black and poor in America. They ignore us until they can't, then they remove us. She squared her shoulders. But we won't go quietly. Not this time. Do you believe Jasmine should trust Thompson's representatives? Or is Gloria right to be suspicious? Comment number 1 if you think Jasmine should keep her distance from Thompson and his world. Comment number 2 if you believe this could be a genuine opportunity that might help their situation. What price would you put on saving someone's life? Is recognition and gratitude owed? Or was Jasmine simply doing what any decent person would do? Like this video if you think Jasmine showed extraordinary courage, and subscribe to follow what happens next in this remarkable story. Now, what will happen when Jasmine finally meets the billionaire whose life she saved? The answer might surprise you. The Thompson Tower lobby gleamed with marble and gold, so polished that Jasmine could see her reflection in nearly every surface. Gloria gripped her granddaughter's hand tightly as they approached the security desk, both dressed in their Sunday best. Gloria in her only good dress, a navy blue number she saved for church, and Jasmine in a carefully pressed white blouse and plaid skirt. We have an appointment with Mr. Thompson, Gloria stated, her voice steady despite her nervousness. The security guard looked them up and down, skepticism evident. Name? Jasmine Williams and Gloria Williams. He checked his computer screen, frowning. I don't see any Williams on the schedule. Call up to Mr. Thompson's office, Gloria insisted. We received this invitation yesterday. She produced the embossed card that had arrived by courier. The guard took the card, examining it as if it might be counterfeit. Wait here, he said finally, picking up his phone. They stood for 15 minutes while other visitors, all white, all well-dressed, were processed quickly and directed to elevators with efficient courtesy. Grandma, Jasmine whispered. Maybe we should go. Gloria squeezed her hand. No, baby. They invited us, and we have every right to be here. Finally, a harried-looking woman in a tailored suit approached. Mrs. Williams, I'm Rebecca Winters. We spoke on the phone. I'm so sorry about the confusion. She shot a pointed look at the security guard. Mr. Thompson is expecting you. The elevator whisked them to the 50th floor, Jasmine's ears popping during the rapid ascent. Rebecca filled the silence with practiced small talk, carefully avoiding any mention of the circumstances that had brought them there. Thompson's office suite occupied the entire floor, with views of Lake Michigan stretching to the horizon. As they were led through a series of increasingly opulent spaces, Jasmine noticed how staff members stared, some with curiosity, others with poorly concealed disdain. Just through here, Rebecca said, opening a final door to reveal a vast office. Richard Thompson stood at a wall of windows, his back to them. He turned slowly, and Jasmine was struck by how different he looked from the man she'd helped on the sidewalk. Standing tall in an immaculate suit, silver hair perfectly styled, he projected power and confidence. The famous Jasmine Williams, he said, approaching with an extended hand. My miracle worker. Jasmine shook his hand politely. I just did what I learned in first aid class, sir. And modest, too. Thompson smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Please, sit down. Gloria and Jasmine perched on the edge of an expansive leather sofa, while Thompson took an armchair opposite them. Rebecca remained standing, tablet in hand. I understand you live in Westside Heights, Thompson began. Yes, sir, Gloria answered. For 20 years now. Challenging neighborhood, Thompson remarked. High crime rates, underperforming schools. Gloria's back stiffened. Our community has faced systematic disinvestment, Mr. Thompson, but we have good people working hard every day. Thompson waved his hand dismissively. Of course. Still, not the ideal environment for a bright young girl like Jasmine. He leaned forward. Which brings me to why I asked you here today. He nodded to Rebecca, who handed him a glossy folder. Jasmine, I'd like to offer you a full scholarship to Westbrook Academy. It's the finest private school in Chicago. My alma mater, in fact. Jasmine's eyes widened. Westbrook Academy was legendary, a place where the children of Chicago's elite received education that virtually guaranteed Ivy League college placement. That's very generous, Mr. Thompson, Gloria said carefully. It's the least I can do. Thompson opened the folder, revealing brochures filled with images of smiling students in crisp uniforms, state-of-the-art facilities, and manicured grounds. The Thompson Foundation sponsors several disadvantaged students each year. We call it our Future Leaders program. The word disadvantaged hung in the air like an unpleasant odor. The scholarship covers tuition, books, uniform, and transportation, Rebecca added. All we ask is that Jasmine participate in some foundation events, a small price for such an opportunity. Gloria's expression remained neutral. And what exactly would these events involve? Photo opportunities, fundraisers, the occasional interview, Rebecca explained. Mr. Thompson's philanthropic work is an important part of Thompson Enterprises' community outreach. Translation: Jasmine would be their poster child, evidence of Thompson's generosity while his company continued buying and developing properties in neighborhoods like Westside Heights, displacing families like theirs. Could we have a moment to discuss this privately? Gloria asked. Of course. Thompson stood. Rebecca will show you to the conference room. Take all the time you need. Once alone, Gloria took Jasmine's hands in hers. Baby, this is your education we're talking about. Opportunities I never dreamed possible for you. But Grandma, I heard what they're not saying. They want to use me. Gloria nodded. Yes, they do. And we need to decide if what you'll gain is worth what they'll take. They talked for 20 minutes, weighing pros and cons. A Westbrook education could open doors that would otherwise remain firmly closed. But the cost might be Jasmine's identity, her connection to her community, perhaps even her relationship with Gloria, if the authorities used this visibility to question her grandmother's guardianship. I think we should accept, Gloria finally said, but with our eyes wide open. Take what they offer, but never forget who you are and where you come from. When Thompson returned, they agreed to the scholarship with the condition that Jasmine's privacy be respected and her image used only with prior approval. Thompson readily agreed, though something in his too quick acquiescence made Gloria uneasy. 1 week later, Jasmine stood before Westbrook Academy's imposing Gothic entrance, new backpack on her shoulders and a knot in her stomach. The campus resembled a small college with manicured lawns, brick buildings adorned with ivy, and facilities that made Douglas Elementary look like an abandoned warehouse. Miss Williams? A trim woman with a clipboard approached. I'm Mrs. Harrington, student coordinator. Welcome to Westbrook. Jasmine was whisked through orientation, fitted for a uniform, and given a schedule of advanced courses selected based on her academic records. Everything moved with efficient precision, yet beneath the cordial welcome lay currents of unspoken judgment. In her first class, the teacher, Mr. Peterson, introduced her with barely concealed surprise in his voice. Class, this is Jasmine Williams, our new scholarship student. Jasmine recently assisted Mr. Richard Thompson during a medical emergency. 20 pairs of eyes turned to stare. Jasmine recognized one boy from news coverage of a Thompson Foundation gala, the developer's godson, Tyler Collins. Assisted? Tyler said with a smirk. My godfather said she practically jumped on him in the street. Nervous laughter rippled through the classroom. That's enough, Tyler, Mr. Peterson said mildly, without the sharp rebuke such a comment deserved. Throughout the day, Jasmine encountered variations of the same response. Teachers who expressed surprise at her articulate answers, students who maintained polite distance while exchanging glances, and administrators who watched her with the wary attention reserved for potential problems. In English class, the teacher, Mrs. Bennett, assigned partners for a poetry analysis. When no students volunteered to work with Jasmine, Mrs. Bennett sighed audibly. Madison, you'll work with Jasmine. Madison Phillips, a girl with straight, blonde hair and a tennis champion's pin on her blazer, moved her desk reluctantly closer to Jasmine's. I've never had a project partner from your part of town, Madison said as if Westside Heights were a foreign country. Do you guys read much poetry there? The assumption of intellectual inferiority was clear, despite Jasmine's presence in the advanced class suggesting otherwise. Actually, Jasmine replied evenly, my grandmother has read me Langston Hughes and Maya Angelou since I was 5. Madison blinked in surprise. Oh, well, we're analyzing Frost. Have you heard of him? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Jasmine quoted quietly, and sorry I could not travel both. By day's end, Jasmine's initial excitement had given way to a profound awareness of her outsider status. The scholarship had opened Westbrook's doors, but had not guaranteed acceptance within its walls. That evening, she discovered something else troubling. A Thompson Enterprises press release featured her photograph prominently alongside the headline, Thompson Foundation welcomes heroic Westside youth to prestigious Westbrook Academy. The article mentioned the foundation's ongoing commitment to revitalizing Chicago's struggling neighborhoods, a euphemism for the gentrification projects that threatened her own community. 2 weeks into her Westbrook experience, Jasmine was asked to attend a Thompson Foundation dinner. Dressed in a new outfit purchased for the occasion, she was positioned near Thompson for photographs, presented as evidence of his charitable nature. Tell them how the scholarship has changed your life, Thompson instructed before the cameras rolled. It's a great opportunity, Jasmine said carefully, though I miss my friends at Douglas. Thompson's smile tightened. Later, away from microphones, he placed a hand on her shoulder. Jasmine, gratitude is an important quality to develop. Remember, there are 100 other children who would appreciate this chance if you don't. The threat was velvet-covered but unmistakable. Meanwhile, in Westside Heights, Gloria discovered that Thompson Enterprises had accelerated its development plans for their neighborhood. Property values were artificially inflating as speculation increased, raising property taxes beyond what longtime residents could afford. The community center where Jasmine had learned CPR was slated for demolition, to be replaced by luxury condominiums. The worlds of Westbrook Academy and Westside Heights couldn't have been more different, yet they were now inextricably linked in Jasmine's life, connected by a chance encounter on a downtown sidewalk and the complex consequences of a simple act of human decency. Dawn broke over Chicago as Jasmine completed her algebra homework at the kitchen table. She'd been awake since 4, struggling to balance the demands of Westbrook's accelerated curriculum with the realities of her home life. Gloria's cough from Palm, the bedroom had grown worse overnight, a persistent reminder of the medication they could no longer afford since their insurance had inexplicably changed coverage terms. You're up early again, Gloria observed, shuffling into the kitchen in her faded robe. Baby, you need to rest. I'm fine, Grandma. Mr. Wilkinson is giving a test today, and Westbrook doesn't accept excuses. Jasmine closed her textbook with a sigh. How are you feeling? Just tired, Gloria lied, hiding a tissue spotted with blood. Your uniform is ironed and ready. The Westbrook Academy uniform, navy blazer with gold crest, crisp white shirt, and plaid skirt, hung on the back of Jasmine's door like a costume for a role she was still learning to play. After 6 weeks at the prestigious school, she remained caught between worlds, excelling academically while navigating a social minefield of privilege and prejudice. The Thompson Foundation car arrived precisely at 7, the same black SUV that had been shuttling her between Westside Heights and Westbrook since her first day. The driver, Mr. Reynolds, was professionally distant, though occasionally his eyes met hers in the rear-view mirror with something like sympathy. Big test today? He asked, as they pulled away from the curb. Algebra, Jasmine confirmed, and I have to present my history project on civil rights legislation. Mr. Reynolds nodded. You'll do great, always do. The 40-minute drive from Westside Heights to Westbrook's North Shore campus was a journey through Chicago's stark economic gradient. Boarded storefronts and neglected parks gradually gave way to manicured lawns and gated communities. By the time they reached Westbrook's wrought iron gates, they had traversed not just physical distance but worlds of opportunity and access. Have a good day, Miss Williams, Mr. Reynolds said as she exited the car. Students streamed across the quad, many pointedly avoiding eye contact with Jasmine. 6 weeks hadn't erased her outsider status. If anything, her academic success had only intensified some students' resentment. Yesterday, she'd found her locker decorated with fake food stamps, a not-so-subtle reminder of her socioeconomic background. In Mr. Wilkinson's algebra class, Jasmine completed her test 20 minutes before anyone else. Rather than praising her efficiency, Mr. Wilkinson frowned suspiciously. "Finished already, Miss Williams? Are you sure you've checked all your work?" The implication was clear. She must have cheated or failed to understand the material. "Yes, sir," Jasmine replied. "I've verified all solutions." Later, in history class, Jasmine delivered her presentation on the Civil Rights Act of 1964, including personal anecdotes from Gloria about living under Jim Crow laws in Mississippi before moving north during the Great Migration. Mrs. Taylor, the history teacher, seemed uncomfortable with the personal connection. "That's all very emotional, Jasmine, but remember that historical analysis requires objective distance from the subject matter." Tyler Collins raised his hand. "My father says affirmative action is just reverse discrimination. Isn't that relevant to this topic?" Mrs. Taylor nodded encouragingly. "An interesting perspective, Tyler. Perhaps Jasmine would like to respond?" The classroom fell silent, all eyes on Jasmine as if she had been appointed spokesperson for all Black Americans. "With respect," Jasmine began carefully, "policies addressing systematic inequalities aren't reverse discrimination. They're attempts to level a playing field that has been uneven for centuries." Tyler smirked. "My godfather says people just need to work harder instead of looking for handouts. He came from nothing and built Thompson Enterprises through pure determination." The irony of this statement, coming from someone whose family connections had guaranteed his place at Westbrook, wasn't lost on Jasmine. But before she could respond, the bell rang. "We'll continue this discussion tomorrow," Mrs. Taylor announced, looking relieved. Lunchtime brought its own challenges. The cafeteria's unspoken seating chart relegated Jasmine to a table near the kitchen entrance, along with the few other scholarship students, most of whom were also minorities. Madison Phillips, her poetry partner from English class, occasionally made overtures of friendship, but these gestures rarely extended beyond their assigned project time. "Jasmine, want to join us for study group tonight?" Madison asked, approaching the scholarship table. "We're reviewing for the chemistry midterm." Before Jasmine could accept, Tyler called from across the cafeteria. "Madison, are you seriously inviting the charity case? What next? A field trip to Westside to see how the other half lives?" Madison hesitated, glancing between Jasmine and her usual social circle. "Sorry," she mumbled, retreating to the safety of privilege. That afternoon, during her weekly check-in with Mrs. Harrington, the student coordinator delivered unwelcome news. "Your academic performance is excellent, Jasmine," Mrs. Harrington began, "but there have been concerns about your integration into the Westbrook community." "What concerns?" Jasmine asked, though she knew the answer. "Several parents have noted that you seem to keep to yourself. The Thompson Foundation Scholarship isn't just about academics. It's about becoming part of the Westbrook family." Translation: "Why aren't you more grateful? Why won't you smile and pretend the microaggressions don't exist?" "I'm trying my best," Jasmine said simply. "Of course you are." Mrs. Harrington's smile didn't reach her eyes. "By the way, Mr. Thompson has requested your presence at the Foundation Gala next Friday. All scholarship recipients are expected to attend." Another evening of being displayed as evidence of Thompson's generosity. Another night away from Gloria, whose health was deteriorating while Jasmine struggled to maintain her grades and Thompson's approval. When the SUV dropped her home that evening, Jasmine found her former best friend Keisha sitting on the front steps of their apartment building. "Look who finally remembered where she came from," Keisha said, her tone hovering between teasing and accusation. "Keisha," Jasmine dropped her backpack and embraced her friend. "I've missed you so much. Could have fooled me. Too busy with your new fancy friends to text back?" The hurt in Keisha's voice was unmistakable. "It's not like that," Jasmine protested. "Westbrook it's not what I expected." "Yeah, well, while you've been gone, Thompson's people have been busy." Keisha gestured down the block where a future site of Thompson Plaza sign had appeared. 5 more families got eviction notices. Yesterday, Ms. Jackson, who's lived here 30 years, they're giving her 30 days to find somewhere new. Guilt twisted in Jasmine's stomach. I didn't know. How could you? You're not here anymore. Keisha stood. Anyway, just came by to tell you there's a community meeting tonight about fighting the development, but you probably have homework or something. The accusation stung precisely because it contained truth. Jasmine was straddling two worlds, belonging fully to neither. Inside, she found Gloria sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of medical bills and an eviction notice of their own. They're saying the building needs essential renovations, Gloria explained, her voice thin with exhaustion. Everyone has to be out by next month. But Mr. Thompson promised our apartment wouldn't be affected, Jasmine said, remembering the assurances given when she accepted the scholarship. Promises to people like us are written in water, baby girl. Gloria sighed. The representative I spoke to said there's no record of any such guarantee. That night, Jasmine attended the community meeting with Gloria. The community center was packed with families facing displacement, their collective anger and fear palpable. Mr. Johnson from the convenience store was there, along with Mrs. Washington from Douglas Elementary and dozens of neighbors whose stories had shaped Jasmine's childhood. Thompson Enterprises is using predatory practices, explained a volunteer lawyer from a housing rights organization. They're buying properties through shell companies, offering predatory loans to struggling homeowners, then foreclosing when payments inevitably fall behind. A map displayed on the wall showed properties already acquired by Thompson's various entities. Over 60% of Westside Heights was now effectively under his control. What can we do? Someone called out. Know your rights, the lawyer advised. Document everything and stick together. They're counting on picking us off one by one. As the meeting concluded, Mrs. Washington approached Jasmine. It's good to see you, Jasmine. How is Westbrook treating you? It's educational, Jasmine replied carefully. Mrs. Washington nodded, understanding. Remember what Maya Angelou said. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The next day at school, Thompson himself made a rare appearance, touring the campus with potential donors. When he spotted Jasmine in the hallway, he beckoned her over. Here she is, gentlemen, our success story from Westside Heights. He placed a proprietary hand on Jasmine's shoulder. Jasmine not only saved my life, but is now thriving at Westbrook. Proof that with the right opportunity, anyone can succeed. The donors nodded approvingly, seeing only what Thompson wanted them to see, a charitable act rather than a complex system of power and control. Jasmine, these gentlemen are interested in our Westside redevelopment project. Perhaps you could share how excited your community is about the improvements coming to your neighborhood. Trapped between truth and the implicit threat to her scholarship, Jasmine hesitated. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Reynolds, the driver. Your grandmother collapsed at work. She's been taken to county hospital. Two worlds were no longer just colliding. They were exploding, and Jasmine stood at the epicenter, forced to choose where her true allegiance lay. The antiseptic smell of County Hospital's emergency room burned Jasmine's nostrils as she paced the worn linoleum floor. 3 hours had passed since she'd arrived, having left school without permission after receiving Mr. Reynolds' text. Her uniform, the blazer with Westbrook's crest, drew curious glances from other waiting families, most dressed in work clothes or casual wear. Family of Gloria Williams? A tired-looking doctor emerged from behind swinging doors. That's my grandmother, Jasmine stepped forward. Is she okay? The doctor, Dr. Chen, according to her badge, consulted her clipboard. Your grandmother experienced syncope, a fainting episode, likely due to overexertion and her underlying cardiac condition. Has she been taking her medication regularly? Jasmine hesitated. We had to reduce her dosage. The new insurance wouldn't cover the full prescription. Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly. I see. Well, we've stabilized her condition, but she needs rest and proper medication management. She mentioned she was working 2 jobs? The cleaning service and evening shifts at the convenience store, Jasmine confirmed. Our rent increased and, with the eviction notice. Eviction? Dr. Chen frowned. That kind of stress isn't good for someone with her condition. When Jasmine was finally allowed to see Gloria, her grandmother looked small against the white hospital sheets, her usually vibrant face drawn with exhaustion. "Baby girl," Gloria reached for Jasmine's hand. "You shouldn't have left school." "Of course I should have," Jasmine replied, swallowing back tears. "You're more important than any class. Your education will mean nothing if you're not here," Jasmine finished firmly. Gloria squeezed her hand weakly. "The doctor says I need to rest for a few weeks, but with the eviction coming..." "Don't worry about that now," Jasmine said, though worry was all she could do. When she finally left the hospital that evening, Jasmine found Mrs. Harrington waiting in the lobby, her expression a carefully constructed mask of concern. "Jasmine, we were quite worried when you disappeared from campus without authorization." "My grandmother had a medical emergency," Jasmine explained. "Yes, we gathered that from the text you received." Mrs. Harrington's tone suggested this was insufficient justification. "However, Westbrook has procedures for family emergencies. Leaving campus without permission is grounds for disciplinary action." Jasmine stared in disbelief. "My grandmother collapsed. What was I supposed to do?" "Notify the administration and wait for proper dismissal," Mrs. Harrington replied, as if this were obvious. "The Thompson Foundation scholarship comes with certain expectations regarding conduct. The implicit threat hung in the air. Behave according to our rules or lose your opportunity." "I understand," Jasmine said finally, not because she agreed, but because she recognized the power dynamic at play. The following Monday, Jasmine returned to Westbrook after spending the weekend helping arrange for a neighbor to check on Gloria during the day. The accumulated assignments from her absence filled her backpack, along with the weight of knowing her grandmother was alone and unwell. In the hallway before first period, Madison approached hesitantly. "Jasmine, I heard about your grandmother. Is she okay?" Before Jasmine could answer, Tyler appeared. "Careful, Madison. Poverty might be contagious." "That's enough, Tyler," Madison snapped, surprising both Jasmine and Tyler with her defense. "Whatever. Just remember the gala this weekend is mandatory for all scholarship students." Tyler smirked. "My godfather was very specific about that." Throughout the day, Jasmine struggled to concentrate on her classes. During lunch, she retreated to the library to research tenant rights on a school computer, discovering that Thompson Enterprises had been sued 3 times for discriminatory housing practices, but had settled each case quietly. Her phone buzzed. With a text from Keisha, "More eviction notices today. Community meeting tonight at 7. As Jasmine was leaving school, she noticed a crowd gathered near the administration building. A Thompson Enterprises sign had been erected announcing the Thompson Foundation Community Leadership Center, with a groundbreaking ceremony scheduled for the following month. Impressive, isn't it? The voice belonged to Miss Reynolds, Jasmine's English teacher and one of the few Westbrook faculty members who had shown genuine interest in her academic growth. The foundation does important work. "Do you know what they're planning for Westside Heights?" Jasmine asked. Ms. Reynolds hesitated. "I've heard about the redevelopment. It's supposed to improve conditions there. By forcing out the people who've lived there for generations," Jasmine said before she could stop herself. Something shifted in Ms. Reynolds' expression. "Meet me in my classroom after the last bell tomorrow," she said quietly, before walking away. That night, Jasmine attended the community meeting instead of completing her history assignment. The mood was more desperate than before, with more families facing eviction and fewer legal options remaining. "Thompson Enterprises has been buying property through 5 different shell companies," explained Mr. Okafor, a housing rights activist. "They're systematically acquiring the entire neighborhood while publicly claiming they're only developing selected properties." When Jasmine returned home, she found Gloria sitting at the kitchen table despite doctor's orders to remain in bed. "We got another letter," Gloria said, sliding an official-looking envelope across the table. "They're inspecting all units next week for code violations." "They're looking for excuses to speed up the evictions," Jasmine realized. The next day, after school, Jasmine met Ms. Reynolds as arranged. The teacher closed her classroom door before speaking. "What I'm about to tell you could cost me my job," she began, "but I can't stay silent anymore." She revealed that the Thompson Foundation received tax benefits far exceeding what it spent on scholarships and community programs. While publicly promoting its charitable work, the foundation primarily served as a tax shelter and public relations vehicle for Thompson Enterprises' more profitable ventures. The scholarship program costs them pennies compared to what they gain in tax write-offs and positive publicity, Ms. Reynolds explained. "And I've seen how they treat scholarship students, as props, not people." "Why are you telling me this?" Jasmine asked. "Because I've watched you struggle to navigate this place while maintaining your integrity," Ms. Reynolds replied. "And because Thompson's using you to whitewash what he's doing to your community." The conversation left Jasmine with a clearer understanding of her position, but no obvious solution. She was a pawn in a game with rules designed by those with power, expected to show gratitude for the opportunity to be exploited. Friday brought the Thompson Foundation Gala, a black tie affair at the Chicago Arts Center. Jasmine was provided with a formal dress and instructions to arrive early for photographs. Gloria was too unwell to attend, still recovering from her collapse earlier in the week. At the venue, Jasmine and the other scholarship recipients were positioned near the entrance to greet guests, living testimonials to Thompson's generosity. Corporate executives, politicians, and celebrities streamed past, occasionally stopping for a photo opportunity with these success stories. "Smile, Jasmine," instructed Rebecca Winters, the PR director. "Mr. Thompson specifically requested you be visible tonight." From her position, Jasmine overheard snippets of conversation among the wealthy attendees. "The Westside project is moving faster than expected. Property values will triple once the undesirables are cleared out. Thompson's a genius, using the foundation to improve the optics while the enterprise handles the displacement." When Thompson himself arrived, he made a show of greeting each scholarship student, saving Jasmine for last. "My miracle worker," he said loudly enough for nearby reporters to hear. Proof that one person can make a difference. As cameras flashed, he leaned closer, whispering, "I expect complete cooperation tonight. Remember who gave you this opportunity and who can take it away." The threat couldn't have been clearer. But something had shifted in Jasmine. Perhaps it was seeing Gloria in that hospital bed, or learning the truth about the foundation, or simply reaching the limit of what her 12-year-old shoulders could bear. During dinner, Thompson presented plans for the revitalization of Westside Heights, complete with architectural renderings showing glass towers and upscale retail where her neighborhood currently stood. Not once did the presentation mention what would happen to the current residents. When Thompson called Jasmine to the stage as the face of our commitment to lifting up deserving youth, the breaking point finally arrived. Standing beside the man whose life she had saved, looking out at a room full of people who viewed her community as an investment opportunity rather than a home, Jasmine made her choice. Would you remain silent to protect your opportunity, or speak truth regardless of consequences? Comment number 1. If you believe Jasmine should prioritize her education and future. Comment number 2. If you think she should stand up for her community despite the risks. What would you sacrifice to protect your home and the people you love? Like this video if you've ever had to choose between what's easy and what's right, and subscribe to see how Jasmine confronts the powerful forces threatening everything she holds dear. Will one 12-year-old girl find the courage to challenge a billionaire? The answer is more surprising than you might think. The spotlights felt like interrogation lamps as Jasmine stood beside Thompson on the gala stage. Hundreds of expectant faces looked up at her, waiting for the heartwarming story they'd been promised. The grateful scholarship recipient, the miracle worker who saved a billionaire's life. The success story that validated their charitable impulses without challenging their complicity. Thompson's hand rested heavily on her shoulder. "Jasmine Williams embodies everything the Thompson Foundation stands for," he announced to enthusiastic applause. "A bright young mind lifted from difficult circumstances through our generosity." The teleprompter at the back of the room displayed the script she was expected to follow, expressions of gratitude, anecdotes about her transformative Westbrook experience, and carefully worded enthusiasm about the exciting changes coming to her neighborhood. But as Jasmine stepped to the microphone, Different words formed in her mind. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," she began, her voice initially soft but gathering strength with each word. "6 weeks ago, I performed CPR on a stranger because that's what my grandmother taught me. We help people in need regardless of who they are." Thompson nodded approvingly, unaware of her deviation from the script. "At the community center where I learned those life-saving skills, the same community center scheduled for demolition next month, Ms. Jackson taught us that character isn't about what you say, but what you do when no one's watching." Jasmine took a deep breath. "Or in my case, what you say when everyone is watching." Thompson's smile faltered as murmurs rippled through the audience. "The Thompson Foundation gave me a scholarship to Westbrook Academy, and I'm grateful for that educational opportunity," Jasmine continued. "But I've received another education these past weeks, one about power, about whose voices matter, and about the difference between charity and justice." Rebecca Winters was moving rapidly toward the stage, alarm evident on her face. "While I've been studying at Westbrook, Thompson Enterprises has been systematically forcing my neighbors from their homes. My grandmother, who raised me after my mother received a harsh sentence for a minor offense that wealthy white offenders rarely face consequences for, collapsed this week from the stress of our impending eviction." "That's enough," Thompson said quietly, reaching for the microphone. Jasmine stepped back, her voice rising. "The community center where I learned to save your life is being demolished. The convenience store where Mr. Johnson gave me my first job collecting recyclables has received a termination notice. The apartment building where I've lived my entire life is being emptied for renovations that current residents won't be able to afford." Security guards approached the stage as Thompson's face darkened with anger. "Is this your idea of gratitude?" he hissed. "No, sir," Jasmine replied clearly. "It's my idea of truth." The security guards reached the stage steps just as Ms. Reynolds appeared beside them, blocking their path. "Let her speak," the teacher said firmly. From the audience, Madison Phillips stood up. "I want to hear what she has to say." Other voices joined in support, creating enough disruption that the guards hesitated. Taking advantage of the moment, Jasmine continued, "I'm 12 years old. I can't stop powerful men from taking what they want. But I can refuse to be used as the friendly face on policies that hurt my community." Smartphones throughout the ballroom captured her words as Thompson attempted to regain control of the situation. "Clearly, Jasmine is overwhelmed by recent events," he said smoothly into a second microphone. "Her grandmother's health concerns have understandably. My grandmother's health declined because she's been working double shifts to afford the rent increase Thompson Properties implemented. Last month," Jasmine interrupted. "The same month I saved your life." The audience's murmurs grew louder. "This is ridiculous," Thompson snapped, his polished facade cracking. "Security, please escort Miss Williams from the stage." As the guards moved forward again, an elderly man rose from a front table. "Let her finish," he said in a voice accustomed to being obeyed. Jasmine recognized him as Judge William Harlow, a major foundation donor whose name adorned the Westbrook Library. Thompson's jaw tightened, but he nodded to the security team to stand down. "Thank you, sir," Jasmine said to Judge Harlow before addressing the room again. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for basic dignity. For my grandmother, for my neighbors, for my community. We aren't obstacles to be cleared for development. We're people with lives and histories and rights." She turned to Thompson. "You once said I saved your life. Now I'm asking you to help save my community. Not by charity, but by justice. Not by removing us, but by including us in the decisions that affect our futures." As she stepped back from the microphone, the ballroom remained silent for several heartbeats before scattered applause began, growing into sustained recognition of her courage. Thompson, regaining his composure, approached the microphone. "Passionate words from a passionate young woman," he said, attempting to reclaim the narrative. "This is exactly why education is so important, to give our youth the confidence to express themselves." But the damage to his carefully cultivated image had been done. As the gala continued with forced normalcy, Jasmine was ushered to a side room where Rebecca Winters waited, lips pressed into a thin line. That was incredibly foolish, the PR director said. Mr. Thompson won't forget this. I don't want him to, Jasmine replied. When she returned home that night, Gloria was waiting despite the late hour. I saw it all on the live stream, she said, opening her arms. My brave, brave girl. I probably lost the scholarship, Jasmine admitted, sinking into her grandmother's embrace. Some prices are too high even for education, Gloria stroked her hair. I couldn't be prouder. The following Monday, Jasmine arrived at Westbrook expecting to be denied entry. Instead, she found Ms. Reynolds waiting at the gate. The administration is in crisis mode, the teacher explained. Your speech has gone viral. Canceling your scholarship now would only validate everything you said. Throughout the day, Jasmine noticed a shift in how she was perceived. Some students avoided her more deliberately than before, while others, including Madison, approached with newfound respect. That was brave what you did, Madison said during lunch. My parents were at the gala. They've been asking questions about Thompson's development projects ever since. After school, Ms. Reynolds invited Jasmine to her classroom again. I have someone who wants to meet you, she said, introducing a woman in a tailored suit. This is Amara Okafor, an attorney with the Housing Rights Coalition. Your speech created an opening, Amara explained. Several major donors are questioning their involvement with Thompson's projects. We need to use this momentum to protect your community. Over the next weeks, Jasmine balanced her Westbrook studies with a crash course in community organizing. With Amara's guidance, she documented Thompson Enterprises' predatory practices, collecting testimony from neighbors facing eviction and researching similar cases across the country. Ms. Reynolds helped her start a blog anonymously detailing her experiences, which quickly gained attention from local journalists who began investigating Thompson's practices more critically. Through Madison, whose parents were influential in Chicago's philanthropic circles, Jasmine connected with potential allies among the city's elite. At school, Jasmine organized fellow scholarship students who shared similar experiences of being used as diversity props while their communities suffered. Together, they formed the Student Advocacy Committee, creating a unified voice that school administrators found harder to dismiss than individual complaints. The work was exhausting, especially alongside Westbrook's demanding curriculum, but Jasmine found unexpected strength in collective action. Each small victory, a delayed eviction notice, a supportive article in the Chicago Tribune, a city council member asking questions about Thompson's permits, built momentum for the larger fight. Gloria's health improved as community support relieved some of their immediate pressures. Neighbors organized a care schedule, ensuring she wasn't alone during her recovery and reducing her workload. The threat of eviction remained, but they no longer faced it in isolation. Thompson himself maintained public silence regarding Jasmine, though his representatives made it clear her scholarship remained under continuous review. The unspoken message was clear: cause no further trouble or lose everything. But something fundamental had changed in Jasmine. The fear that had once made her grateful for crumbs from Thompson's table had been replaced by a fierce determination to demand what her community deserved, not as charity, but as right. One evening, as she helped Gloria prepare dinner, Jasmine noticed her grandmother watching her with a mixture of pride and concern. "What is it, Grandma?" "I'm just thinking about how much you've grown these past months," Gloria said. "But I worry too. You're carrying adult burdens on 12-year-old shoulders." Jasmine stirred the pot of stew thoughtfully. "Remember what you always told me about our ancestors, that they endured much worse so we could have better?" Gloria nodded. "Maybe this is my way of honoring them," Jasmine continued, "by refusing to be silent when silence would be easier." As winter settled over Chicago, Thompson Enterprises announced a community engagement forum to discuss the Westside Heights development. The carefully staged event was clearly designed to create the appearance of consultation while proceeding with original plans. Jasmine and her growing coalition prepared meticulously for the forum, gathering data, organizing community members to attend, and ensuring journalists would be present to document the proceedings. The night before, they gathered at the community center, still standing thanks to a temporary injunction secured by Amara. "Remember, "We're not just fighting against displacement," Jasmine told the assembled neighbors. "We're fighting for a vision of development that includes us." Mr. Johnson from the convenience store raised his hand. "I've been in business here 30 years. My customers are my family. What Thompson offers isn't progress, it's erasure." Mrs. Washington, Jasmine's former teacher, added, "They want our land but not our lives, our property but not our stories." As the meeting concluded, Keisha approached Jasmine. Their friendship had been repaired through shared purpose, stronger now for having weathered strain. "Remember when we used to dream about changing the world?" Keisha asked. "Who knew we'd start with our own backyard?" The following day, as Thompson's representatives prepared to present their sanitized vision of revitalization, they found themselves facing not a scattered collection of disgruntled residents, but an organized community with clear demands and knowledgeable leadership, including a 12-year-old girl who had once saved their boss's life and was now determined to save something equally precious: her home. Snow fell gently outside the windows of the grand ballroom at the Palmer House Hilton, where Thompson Enterprises had chosen to host its Community Engagement Forum for the Westside Heights redevelopment. Inside, the temperature was considerably less peaceful. Thompson himself stood at the podium, immaculate in a tailored suit that cost more than most Westside residents earned in a month. Behind him, a digital presentation displayed glossy renderings of the proposed development, gleaming glass towers, artisanal coffee shops, and tree-lined boulevards where their homes currently stood. "What you're seeing is the future," Thompson announced to the divided room. "A revitalized community with modern amenities, improved infrastructure, and enhanced security." The front rows were filled with Thompson employees, investors, and friendly media. Community members, despite arriving early, had been directed to seats at the back, a physical manifestation of their secondary status in the proceedings. Jasmine sat with Gloria, Keisha, and other Westside Heights residents, watching as Thompson skillfully framed displacement as opportunity. Beside them, Amara Okafor from the Housing Rights Coalition took rapid notes, documenting every misleading claim and false promise. "And today," Thompson continued, his voice rising with practiced inspiration, "I'm proud to announce a $5 million commitment to a Westside Heights Community Fund, ensuring that this development benefits everyone." Applause erupted from the front rows while skeptical murmurs rippled through the community section. "The fund will provide job training, educational resources, and relocation assistance for current residents," Thompson explained, without mentioning that relocation meant removal from the neighborhood most had called home for generations. When the presentation concluded, Thompson introduced the community input portion of the event with visible reluctance. "We've prepared comment cards for those with questions or concerns," he explained. "Our team will review them and address selected topics." Amara stood immediately. "Point of order, Mr. Thompson. Your invitation specifically promised an open forum, not a screened question period." "Security concerns necessitated the change," Thompson replied smoothly. "Recent protests have raised safety issues. The protests had been peaceful community gatherings, evidence of organization that clearly threatened Thompson's plans more than anyone's safety." Jasmine raised her hand, and to her surprise, Thompson acknowledged her directly. "Ah, Miss Williams, I believe everyone here knows you." His tone carried a warning. "Perhaps you'd like to share your thoughts on the community fund we've established?" It was a calculated move, forcing her to either publicly reject a $5 million gift or appear to endorse the broader development plan. Thompson's smile suggested he believed he'd cornered her. Jasmine approached the microphone set up in the audience section, aware of cameras tracking her movement. In the 6 weeks since the gala incident, her viral moment had faded from national attention, but remained fresh in Chicago's consciousness. "Thank you for acknowledging me, Mr. Thompson," she began, her voice clear despite her racing heart. $5 million sounds impressive when announced from a podium. Thompson nodded, assuming compliance was forthcoming. "But context matters," Jasmine continued. "According to your own financial projections, which Ms. Okafor obtained through a Freedom of Information request, Thompson Enterprises expects to generate $800 million in profit from this development over 10 years. Murmurs rippled through the audience as Thompson's expression hardened. That makes your community fund less than 1% of anticipated profits, Jasmine explained. Meanwhile, your plan would displace over 800 families, including elderly residents who've lived in Westside Heights for decades. The market determines property values, Miss Williams, Thompson interjected. We're offering fair compensation. Fair for whom? Jasmine asked. The fair market value being offered to my grandmother for her apartment of 20 years wouldn't cover 6 months' rent in the new development. From her seat, Gloria nodded confirmation. Furthermore, Jasmine continued, your environmental impact statement fails to address the increased pollution the development would create in surrounding areas. Areas that, coincidentally, are also predominantly Black and low income. Thompson's jaw tightened as he realized Jasmine wasn't just speaking from emotion, but had done her research. Behind him, Rebecca Winters whispered urgently to security personnel, who began moving toward the audience microphone. Your time is up, Miss Williams, Thompson declared, though no time limit had been established. I haven't finished, Jasmine insisted as a security guard approached. From the audience, Madison Phillips stood. Let her speak. The unexpected support from a Westbrook, student, and daughter of prominent donors, created a moment of confusion that Jasmine utilized. Mr. Thompson, you've presented a vision of development that erases our community rather than enhancing it. We're not opposed to improvement. We're opposed to exclusion. She gestured to Amara, who approached with a folder. We've prepared an alternative development proposal that would preserve affordable housing, incorporate existing businesses, and create genuine opportunities for current residents. As Amara distributed copies to journalists present, Thompson's face flushed with anger. This is not how this forum was intended to function. Perhaps that's the problem, Jasmine replied. Intentions that don't include the people most affected. The security guard reached for her arm, but Judge Harlow, the elderly donor who had intervened at the gala, stood from his seat near the front. I'd like to see this alternative proposal, he announced. As an investor in Thompson Enterprises, I have concerns about both the ethical and legal implications of the current approach. Thompson's control of the room was slipping. Other investors began requesting copies of the community proposal, while journalists scribbled notes frantically. This forum is adjourned, Thompson declared, signaling to his team to end the presentation. Running away from uncomfortable truths doesn't make them disappear, Jasmine called as he left the podium. Thompson stopped abruptly and returned to the microphone, his composure cracking. Listen carefully, Miss Williams. Your scholarship, your grandmother's housing, your entire future depends on cooperation. I gave you an opportunity most children from your neighborhood could only dream of. This is how you repay that generosity, with disruption and ingratitude. The room fell silent at this naked display of power and expectation. I saved your life, Mr. Thompson, Jasmine replied quietly. I didn't sell you my voice. Something dangerous flashed in Thompson's eyes. You're 12 years old. What do you possibly think you can accomplish against a corporation with resources you can't even comprehend? I don't have to accomplish anything alone, Jasmine said, gesturing to the community members standing behind her. That's the difference between us. You see individuals to be managed. We see community to be preserved. Thompson leaned into the microphone, lowering his voice. Do you know how many communities like yours I've redeveloped? How many protests have failed? This is business, child. Nothing personal. But he had made a critical error. His microphone remained active, broadcasting his dismissive tone throughout the ballroom and to the journalists' recording devices. It is personal, Jasmine replied, her voice steady. These are our homes, our lives, our histories. And contrary to what you might believe, Mr. Thompson, wealth doesn't make your needs more important than ours. The confrontation might have escalated further if not for an unexpected interruption. Tyler Collins, Thompson's godson, approached the podium with a tablet in hand. Uncle Richard, he said urgently, you need to see this. Thompson glanced at the screen, his expression shifting from anger to alarm. Without another word to the audience, he exited through a side door, surrounded by his executive team. In the vacuum left by his departure, journalists swarmed Jasmine and Amara, requesting interviews and clarification on the alternative proposal. Community members gathered around them protectively, while some investors lingered to examine the documents more closely. "What was on that tablet?" Jasmine asked Madison, who had made her way through the crowd. "Breaking news," Madison replied, showing her own phone. Someone leaked internal Thompson Enterprises emails showing they deliberately targeted neighborhoods based on racial demographics for accelerated redevelopment. Who would leak something like that? Keisha wondered. Ms. Reynolds, standing nearby, simply smiled. Sometimes conscience catches up with even the most loyal employees. As they left the hotel, Gloria wrapped an arm around Jasmine's shoulders. "I'm proud of you, baby girl. But Thompson isn't the type to admit defeat easily. This fight is just beginning." What no one realized as they stepped into the snowy Chicago evening was that Thompson's hasty departure wasn't just about leaked emails. It was about a financial house of cards, beginning to collapse. One that would soon create both danger and unexpected opportunity for Jasmine and her community. Spring arrived in Chicago with uncharacteristic gentleness, pale green buds softening the urban landscape. 6 months had passed since the confrontation at the Palmer House Hilton. 6 months of legal battles, community organizing, and unexpected alliances that had transformed both Westside Heights and Jasmine Williams. On this particular Saturday morning, Jasmine sat on the steps of the newly renovated community center, watching volunteers plant flowers in what would soon be a neighborhood garden. The building, once scheduled for demolition, now gleamed with fresh paint, its doors open to residents for classes, meetings, and social gatherings. "Hard to believe this almost didn't exist," Keisha said, joining her on the steps with 2 paper cups of lemonade from Mr. Johnson's convenience store. "A lot of things are hard to believe these days," Jasmine agreed, accepting the drink gratefully. The months following the confrontation had been turbulent. The leaked emails revealing Thompson Enterprises' racially targeted development practices had triggered investigations by the state attorney general and federal housing authorities. Investors had withdrawn support, city permits had been suspended, and Thompson's carefully constructed empire had begun to show cracks in its foundation. Most surprising was what happened at Westbrook Academy. Rather than expelling Jasmine as everyone expected, the Board of Trustees, facing intense scrutiny and pressure from influential parents like Madison's, had instituted new scholarship policies ensuring students couldn't be dismissed for protected speech activities. Ms. Reynolds had been promoted to diversity coordinator, working to address the systemic issues Jasmine had exposed. "There's your grandmother," Keisha pointed out as Gloria emerged from the community center, deep in conversation with Amara Okafor. At 67, Gloria still moved slowly from her health crisis, but her spirit had fully recovered. She had become the unexpected leader of the Westside Housing Coalition, her lifetime of quiet dignity translating into moral authority that even city officials respected. "The judge approved our community land trust application," Gloria announced as she approached the girls. "Thompson can't touch these properties now, even if he recovers financially." The community land trust had been Amara's suggestion, a legal structure that would preserve affordability by removing land from the speculative market. 20 buildings in Westside Heights, including their apartment complex, had been purchased from Thompson's creditors at a fraction of their previous value and placed into the trust. "That's not all," Amara added, her professional demeanor briefly giving way to excitement. "The settlement from the discrimination lawsuit was approved this morning. Thompson Enterprises has to pay reparations to all families who received predatory eviction notices." For Jasmine, these victories were still sometimes difficult to comprehend. 6 months ago, she had been a 12-year-old girl collecting recyclables to help pay for her grandmother's medication. Now she was recognized throughout Chicago as the catalyst for a movement that had not only saved her neighborhood, but was reshaping how the city approached development in historically marginalized communities. Not everything had changed, of course. Racism and inequality remained stubborn realities. Some former neighbors had been displaced before the legal interventions took effect. Westbrook Academy still contained students who viewed Jasmine as an unwelcome intruder, but the landscape of possibility had shifted, creating space for progress that once seemed unimaginable. As the afternoon progressed, more neighbors gathered at the community center for what had become a weekly tradition, the Westside Heights planning meeting, where residents collaborated on priorities for neighborhood improvement. Unlike Thompson's top-down approach, these plans emerged from the community itself, balancing immediate needs with long-term sustainability. "Jasmine," called Mrs. Washington, her former elementary school teacher who now coordinated educational initiatives at the center. "There's someone here to see you." Turning, Jasmine was startled to find Richard Thompson himself standing at the entrance to the garden. Gone was the immaculate power suit, replaced by casual clothes that still probably cost more than most Westside residents' monthly rent. His face looked older, the confident smile replaced by something more complex. The chattering crowd fell silent as residents noticed his presence. Some expressions hardened with anger, others showed curiosity, but no one moved to intervene as Thompson approached Jasmine. "Miss Williams," he said, his voice lacking its former authoritative resonance. "Might I have a word?" Gloria moved protectively toward her granddaughter, but Jasmine gently touched her arm. "It's okay, Grandma." They walked to a bench beneath a flowering crabapple tree, maintaining a careful distance from each other. "I won't take much of your time," Thompson began. "My lawyers advised against this meeting, but some things need to be said directly." Jasmine waited silently. "My company is facing bankruptcy," Thompson continued. "The investigations, the lawsuits, the withdrawn investments, it's all coming apart." "I'm sorry for the employees who'll lose their jobs," Jasmine said sincerely, "but not for the developments that won't displace people from their homes." Thompson nodded slowly. 6 months ago, I would have dismissed that response as naive idealism. Perhaps I've learned something in my fall from grace. From his pocket, he withdrew an envelope and placed it on the bench between them. "This is for you. No strings attached, no publicity, no requirements." "What is it?" Jasmine asked, not touching the envelope. "A personal check for $5 million, Thompson said quietly. "Not from the company, from my personal accounts. What remains of them, anyway." Jasmine stared at the envelope in disbelief. "Why would you give me $5 million after everything that's happened?" Thompson was silent for a long moment, looking out across the community garden where children played between rows of newly planted vegetables. "When I was lying on that sidewalk, chest feeling like it was being crushed by a building, do you know what I saw?" he finally asked. "Not my achievements, not my buildings or bank accounts. Just faces, most of them people I'd hurt or dismissed. On my way to success," he turned to face her directly. "Then I saw your face, a child with every reason to walk past me to think, not my problem. But you didn't. You saw my humanity when others saw only my wealth." His voice dropped almost to a whisper. "I failed to see yours." The words hung in the spring air between them. "The money won't fix what I've done," Thompson continued, "but it might help you build something better than what I tried to destroy." Jasmine finally picked up the envelope, feeling its weight. Not just the physical weight of paper, but the moral weight of decision. "If I accept this, it won't be for me." "I know," Thompson said. "That's why I'm giving it to you instead of anyone else." As Thompson stood to leave, Jasmine had one final question. "Why did you really offer me that scholarship? Was it just for publicity?" Thompson paused. "Initially, yes, but watching you navigate Westbrook without compromising who you are, that was unexpected. You have a gift, Jasmine Williams. Not just intelligence, but moral clarity. Don't lose that no matter what path you choose." He walked away without looking back, a solitary figure against the backdrop of the community he had once planned to erase. That evening, Jasmine, Gloria, and community leaders gathered to discuss Thompson's unexpected gift. After hours of debate, they reached a unanimous decision. The money would establish the Westside Community Development Fund, providing zero-interest loans for resident-owned businesses, scholarships for neighborhood children, and resources for affordable housing initiatives. 3 years later, 15-year-old Jasmine stood at a podium in the expanded community center, addressing a group of middle school students. The Westside Youth Advocacy program she had founded was teaching a new generation about civic engagement, urban planning, and community power. "Change doesn't always come from where you expect it," she explained to the attentive faces. "Sometimes it starts with a simple act, helping someone in need, speaking truth when silence would be easier, or believing in possibilities others can't yet see." The neighborhood around them was transforming, not through gentrification, but through resident-led initiatives supported by the fund and partnerships Jasmine had helped forge with organizations across Chicago. Property values had increased modestly, but anti-displacement protections ensured longtime residents benefited from the improvements rather than being forced out by them. Jasmine still attended Westbrook Academy, now as a scholarship student whose position was secured by merit rather than publicity value. The school itself had changed too, with Ms. Reynolds' influence creating more inclusive policies and recruiting talented students from neighborhoods throughout Chicago. After her presentation, as the students filed out, Jasmine noticed Gloria watching from the doorway, pride evident in her face. "You know what I was just thinking?" Gloria asked, as they walked home together through streets where neighbors greeted them by name. "What's that, Grandma?" "About how saving that man's life turned out to be the catalyst for saving something even more important, our community's soul, and yours." Jasmine smiled, remembering the 12-year-old girl who had once collected recyclables and dreamed of a different future. That future hadn't arrived in the way she expected, but perhaps that was the most valuable lesson of all. That transformation rarely followed a straight line, and that sometimes the most profound changes began with the smallest acts of human dignity. "I think you're right, Grandma," she said, taking Gloria's hand as they turned onto their familiar street. "It wasn't a mistake after all. What would you do if you were given $5 million to help your community?" Comment below with your ideas. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful real-life stories, and share this video with someone who needs inspiration today. Remember that one person, even a 12-year-old girl, can spark change that transforms an entire community. Thank you for watching, and may you find the courage to speak your truth, no matter how powerful the forces aligned against you. This story reminds us that true courage often emerges from the most unexpected places, sometimes from a 12-year-old girl facing powers that seem insurmountable. Jasmine teaches us that saving a life is meaningful, but saving a community's soul is transformative. She shows us that education without moral compass is hollow, and that opportunity without justice is merely privilege disguised as charity. We learn that systems of power rely on our silence and gratitude, expecting us to accept crumbs while the table is cleared. But when we find our voice, when we refuse to be tokens or props in someone else's narrative, we reclaim our dignity and the possibility of genuine change. Perhaps most importantly, this story reveals how community resilience is our greatest strength against discrimination and displacement. Individual success means little if it requires abandoning those who shaped us. True progress doesn't erase communities, but empowers them to define their own futures. The journey from recycling collector to community leader wasn't about Jasmine becoming exceptional. It was about her recognizing the exceptional strength already present in her neighborhood and channeling it toward collective action. In the end, it wasn't just about what she saved, but what she helped create. A future where dignity isn't determined by wealth and where justice isn't mistaken for charity.